till I put her to the test. It was not long before I saw my fine gentleman trotting in front of me up a long but gentle slope that rose in the distance, and slackening my own rein, I withdrew into the forest at the side of the road, till he had passed its summit and disappeared, when I again galloped forward. And thus we went on for an hour, over the most uneven country I ever traversed, he always one hill ahead, when suddenly, by what instinct I cannot determine, I felt myself approaching the end, and hastening to the top of the ascent upon which I was then labouring, looked down into the shallow valley spread out before me. What a sight met my eyes if I had been intent on anything less practical than the movements of the solitary horseman below! Hills on hills, piled about a verdant basin in which depths nestled a scanty collection of houses, in number so small they could be told upon the fingers of the right hand, but which notwithstanding lent an undescribable aspect of comfort to this remote region of hill and forest. But the vision of Mr. Blake pausing halfway down the slope before me, examining, yes, examining a pistol which he held in his hand, soon put an end to all ideas of romance. Somewhat alarmed, I reined back, but his action had evidently no connection with me, for he did not once glance behind him, but kept his eye on the road, which I now observed took a short turn towards a house of so weird and ominous an appearance that I scarcely marvelled at his precaution. Situated on a level tract of land at the crossing of three roads, its spacious front, rude and unpainted as it was, presented every appearance of an inn, but from its moss-grown chimneys no smoke arose, nor could I detect any sign of life in its shutterless windows and closed doors, across which shivered the dark shadow of the one gaunt and aged pine that stood like a guard beside its tumble-down porch. Mr. Blake seemed to have been struck by the same fact concerning its loneliness, for hurriedly replacing his pistol in his breast pocket, he rode slowly forward. I instantly conceived the plan of striking across the belt of underbrush that separated me from this old dwelling, and by taking my stand opposite its front, intercept a view of Mr. Blake as he approached. Hastily dismounting, therefore, I led my horse into the bushes and tied her to a tree, proceeding to carry out my plan on foot. I was so far successful as to arrive at the further edge of the wood, which was thick enough to conceal my presence without being too dense to obstruct my vision, just as Mr. Blake passed on his way to this solitary dwelling. He was looking very anxious, but determined. Turning my eyes from him, I took another glance at the house, which by this movement I had brought directly before me. It was even more deserted looking than I had thought, its unpainted front with its double row of blank windows meeting your gaze without a response, while the huge old pine with half its limbs dismantled of foliage, rattled its old bones against its sides and moaned in its aged fashion like the solitary retainer of a dead race. I own I felt the cold shivers creep down my back as that creaking sound struck my ears, though as the day was chill with an east wind, I dare say it was more the effect of my sudden cessation from exercise, than of any superstitious awe I felt. Mr. Blake seemed to labour under no such impressions. Riding up to the front door, he knocked without dismounting on its dismal panels with his riding whip. No response was heard. Knitting his brows impatiently, he tried the latch. The door was locked. Hastily running his eye over the face of the building, he drew rein and proceeded to ride around the house, which he could easily do owing to the absence of every obstruction in the way of fence or shrubbery. Finding no means of entrance, he returned again to the front door, which he shook with an impatient hand that however produced no impression upon the trusty lock, and recognizing, doubtless, the futility of his endeavours, he drew back, and merely pausing to give one other look at its deserted front, turned his horse's head, and to my great amazement proceeded with sombre mien and clouded brow to retake the road to Melville. This old inn or decayed homestead was then the object of his lengthened and tedious journey. This ancient house, rotting away among the bleak hills of Vermont, the bourne towards which his steps had been tending for these past 2 days, I could not understand it. Rapidly emerging from the spot where I had secreted myself, I, in my turn, made a circuit of the house, if happily I should discover some loophole of entrance which had escaped his attention, but every door and window was securely barred, and I was about to follow his example and leave the spot, when I saw 2 or 3 children advancing towards me from the crossroads, gaily swinging their schoolbooks. I noticed they hesitated and huddled together as they approached and saw me, but not heeding this, I accosted them with a pleasant word or so, then pointing over my shoulder to the house behind, asked who lived there. Instantly their already pale faces grew paler. "Why," cried one, a boy, "don't you know? That is where the 2 wicked men lived who stole the money out of the Rutland Bank. They were put in prison, but they got away and—" Here the other, a little girl, plucked him by the sleeve with such a fright, that he himself took alarm, and just giving me one quick stare out of his wide eyes, grasped his companion by the hand and took to his heels. As for myself, I stood rooted to the ground in my astonishment. This blank, sleepy old house the home of the notorious Schoenmakers, after whom half of the detectives of the country were searching! I could scarcely credit my own ears. True, I now remembered they had come from these parts. Still— Turning round I eyed the house once more. How altered it looked to me! What a murderous aspect it wore! And how dismally secret were the tight shut windows and closely fastened doors, on one of which a rude cross, scrawled in red chalk, met the eye with a mysterious significance. Even the old pine had acquired the villainous air of the uncanny repository of secrets too dreadful to reveal, as it groaned and murmured to itself in the keen east wind. Dark deeds and foul wrong seemed written all over the fearful place, from the long strings of black moss that clung to the worm-eaten eaves, to the worn stone with its great blotch of something. Could it have been blood, that served as a threshold to the door? Suddenly, with the quickness of lightning, the thought flashed across me. What could Mr. Blake, the aristocratic representative of New York's oldest family, have wanted in this nest of infamy? What errand of hope, fear, despair, avarice or revenge, could have brought